Hello, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the Entrepreneurial ScaleUp system and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from each other's experiences. I'm Granger Forson, and on this episode of the show, I'm joined by Jemima Gray of Cotswold Fox Clothing. From a university assignment to a thriving business, from overcoming legal hurdles to launching her own flagship store, we discuss her inspiring journey of resilience, growth, and entrepreneurial spirit. To ensure you don't miss any other inspirational future episodes, do subscribe to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Also, you can nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up journey. You can find out how in the show notes. So, let's now dive into the inspiring journey of building an idea into a business through resilience, growth, and entrepreneurial spirit with Jemima Gray. Hello, Jemima Gray. Welcome to ScaleUp Radio. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you for having me. I'm Jemima and I'm the founder of Cotswold Fox Clothing.
So, I'll probably guess what that is from the title, but take us through that. So what is Cotswold Fox Clothing? What do you actually do?
So we focus on sort of countryside casual wear, like sort of quarter zips, gilets, shorts, polo shirts. And our aim is to sort of bridge the gap between great quality clothing, but also keep it affordable and not sort of go into that almost luxury brand space that's really sort of prevalent at the moment.
When did you get going then?
So it's almost 3 years to the day. So
Wow.
It was April 2021. When I was at university, I was in my final year doing a master's degree in business. And I just thought, let's just give it a go and see what happens. So that was 3 years ago.
Wow, congratulations. Straight out of university, straight into the first business. So why did the idea for the clothing brand come from then? Why clothing?
So I went to the Royal Agricultural University, which is in Cirencester, and it was literally the uniform of the university is sort of country casual wear. So sort of Shuffle is a big brand for them and other things. And quarter zips seemed to be the main sort of almost uniform of choice. And at the time I was also I used to event internationally, basically riding horses internationally. Yeah. And I was a brand ambassador for several sort of similar-ish brands. And I remember one day I was sort of creating content for them. And I thought it's something I could actually do for myself. Anyway, and my business degree obviously included a business plan as a assignment, and I was given the sector of clothing. And I thought, oh God, I know nothing about clothing. And anyway, so I did a lot of Googling and did this business plan and sort of paired that with my equestrian background, and actually thought at the time, I was like, oh, this is sort of much easier. Haha, it's not now, but it seems much easier than what I thought it was going to be. So I thought, actually, I had a few £100 in the bank, really not very much at all. I think it was about £300. And I thought, I'll just sort of give this a go, really. What's the worst that could happen?
Wow, what amazing tenacity. £300 in the bank, just written a business plan to finish off your assignment at university. So what happened next?
So I then thought, gosh, well, I need a logo, I need a website, I need photos, everything like that. So I did my first logo on Microsoft Word, which is not the best thing to use for a logo at all. And I thought, I lived in the Cotswolds. Obviously, I was in Cirencester at university there, and I thought everyone knows the Cotswolds. It doesn't seem to be very involved with clothing at the moment, so I couldn't find another clothing brand that had the word Cotswold in. So I thought, perfect, that's a good start. And then I wanted the logo to be an animal, because you see so many logos, and I wanted it to be distinctive rather than just, I don't know, an initial. So I thought fox, because they're indigenous to the English countryside. And actually, I also, my pony, so I had him since I was 12, and at this point I was 23, so I'd had him for a lot of my life, and he was called Foxy. So that's sort of where it all came from, really. I thought I'd just put the two together.
Brilliant. Oh, I love that. Yes. Building on some of your own thoughts and experience. Yeah, a pony called Foxy coming to Fox. Okay, so you've got a logo, you've got a brand, you've got a business plan, you got £300 in the bank. Where did you go next?
So probably not what I should have done, but I literally started with just stock stuff. So, like Fruit of the Loom, I just went on their website and you can order plain stuff and then just have it embroidered. So that's literally all I did to start with. It really isn't rocket science at all. I literally just ordered 10 quarter zips in one colour and just had my logo printed on the front, embroidered on the front. And that was it. And at this point, I didn't even have a website. I just had an Instagram page that I set up, the day before, and sold them through the Instagram page. And amazingly, I think I can't remember how I got the initial followers to that. I think I just sort of did a teaser of new clothing brand coming soon and sort of liked and followed lots of similar accounts that I thought could be a good customer base. And in that first day of advertising them, and by advertising, I mean, I put one on and my mum took a photo of me wearing it in the garden, and put it on the Instagram page. And I think that evening I sold 3 through Instagram DM and then just PayPal. That's what I did. And then I did that for, it wasn't long, it was probably about a week. And then I thought, gosh, I'm going to have to actually sort of set something up here. So then I came across Shopify, the classic, and set up a free website with a free trial. And that was sort of the beginning of everything, really.
So a few weeks in now. So let alone 6 months or a year, which most business owners probably drag their feet about. No, I'm being cruel to other business owners there, really, I think. So brilliant. So you've set up a Shopify, So what happened next? And were these ideas already in your business plan, or was that something just different?
Not at all. I'm afraid I'm very impatient and I'm also very impulsive. Okay. So I came up with this idea and then, the next week it was a thing, because my pet peeve is people who talk about something for years and years and years. And yeah, fair enough, lots of things do take years of planning. But I think the best thing is just to get started and just see, because I think before you get started, you don't really know what the appetite is. Obviously, you can ask people about it and do your research, but you do sort of need to see how people react to your product or your service. So that was sort of my view on things. I just thought, I'll just give it a go. So we sort of went from there. So built the Shopify website. It really was terrible. Like all the photography was iPhone. And at that point, I think I had the 9 or something. It wasn't great. And started building up the social media pages, and that was my main form of marketing there. And then I brought out a couple more colours in the same Fruit of the Loom cord zip. I think I brought out, the first one I brought out was bright blue, and then I did a red, and then I did a grey, and then a navy. And those were sort of the first 4 products I did. And that was probably in the first, probably about 6 weeks, I think, I brought out those. And then sort of learned a lot doing that. And actually at this point, I thought lots of people were doing a similar thing because it was lockdown as well. I think it was a very popular thing to start your own clothing brands, especially online, because everyone was shopping online because shops were closed. So I think at this point, I thought I actually need to get clothes made personally to the brand so they can't be copied. So at this point, I started looking for an independent supplier abroad. And the only place I knew where to do this was Alibaba. So I went through Alibaba, sort of looking at clothing samples, and found one that I actually quite liked. So I contacted the supplier through there. And it was all a little bit dodgy, to start with. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if it was a scam or anything like that. So anyway, I just went with it. And after lots of we did factory tours over FaceTime and things like that, because again, COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. And after a couple of weeks of that, I thought I'll just place an order for a sample with this new supplier. And that was for our still best-selling product now, which is the Siren Sister cord zip in mint. So that was the first custom product we did for the brand. And then that sample took about 3 weeks, I think, to get here, which actually wasn't too bad. And I remember as soon as it arrived, I thought, I was so excited. I don't think I've ever been that excited about a piece of clothing before, because before I started my business, clothing wasn't really that interesting for me. But when it came down to Cotswold Fox, I was absolutely hooked on it. So yeah, so that's what happened next.
Wow. So first samples turned up. Yeah. And I totally agree with your statement. You know, you don't know until you go to market. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, the market is the only test place, and the market's going to buy or not buy. And you can, you know, come up with lots of different ideas, but it's still an idea until you put it in front of people and see if they want to buy it. You know, it's that simple. You've just demonstrated exactly that, but some people can take a long time doing that. So your first samples now turned up from a company, I presume, in from China, was it?
It's actually Pakistan.
Okay.
Still my main supplier to this day. We've sort of grown together, which is great.
Brilliant.
I think in that first message 3 years ago, they were just getting started as well as me, and now we work together every day. So it's gone really well.
Fantastic. I like those type of stories. Yeah. and finding someone who reflects what you want to do, supports you to be able to do that. You know, a supplier relationship is so important. Finding that, well done. So yeah, you got the first samples. What happened next then?
So it was very much the same. So they arrived and I absolutely fell in love with it. So it was very different from the stock products that we were doing before, which was, you know, very basic, literally a logo on a plain quarter zip. And it still sell it now, which is one of our best sellers. And it had a mint panel at the top, then a white panel in the middle with the logo on, and then navy panel at the bottom. And it was just, I hadn't seen anything like it before. So I was really excited and literally just followed the same principle of me wearing it in the garden. Mum took a photo, put it up on the website, and just saw what interest I got, because I hadn't ordered any yet. I just got the first sample. So I thought, rather than, you know, spending what was then to me a lot of money on 50 of these because of the minimum order quantities, when I literally just started and I didn't know how they were going to go. So I put them up on the website. I put it up on the website just as a sort of teaser and to see what people thought. And I also put it on Facebook and Instagram. And everyone just loved it, and they couldn't wait. They signed up with their email addresses to wait until they could buy one themselves. And it was really exciting. And I think that evening that I put it up, I then ordered the first 50 and paid for it, which to me was a huge step. I mean, it wasn't cheap for me. And I'd never had 50 pieces of anything. I'd order 5 at a time because I wouldn't know if people would like it. And I started the business a few weeks before. So yeah, that was a big step. And they took a while to be made and to be sent and delivered. And then they finally got here. And I think we sold out in half an hour.
Well done.
Which was ridiculous. I remember standing in the garden with my phone, because I have the Shopify app on there. And I was just walking around the fields at my parents' house because I couldn't sit still because I was so nervous about the launch. And honestly, every few seconds, my phone pinged with an order coming through. And I just couldn't believe it. And I remember I walked back in the house probably about half an hour, 40 minutes later. And my mum was like, "Oh, how did it go?" And I was like, "They've gone. They've all gone." So yeah, super unexpected, but also super exciting. And that's sort of, I'd say, when it really sort of started to get a bit more exciting. And I actually thought maybe this could sort of be something a bit more than just a lockdown hobby.
And one of the questions I'm always asked by my clients is, how do we set prices? How did you you're only 3 weeks in or whatever, maybe a little bit longer now because your first 50's turned up. How did you set a price for that?
Looking back, they were so cheap. But I did a bit of market research, but it was tricky because all the other brands that I sort of admired at the time had been going for, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And, had a team of staff, had professional photography and models and everything else. So what I just thought, how much ideally would I like to make on this product? And I thought, I'll just make double, or try to make double. So that's what I did. I just doubled the price that I paid for it. And I actually think I took a bit of money off after that because I thought, oh, that's quite expensive. No one's going to buy it.
But they all sold.
Yeah, exactly. So the first few months I was definitely selling products very cheaply. But I think that's a good way of doing it because I wasn't doing it at this point to make money.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get customers and I wanted to sell products and get the name out there a little bit. So yeah, they were too cheap, but I don't think it was a bad thing.
And were you doing your own packaging and then posting it and sorting it all out?
Yeah, so at this point I was back at my parents' house because of COVID and we all had to move out of uni accommodation. So I was living back at home, which is near Oxford, and luckily my bedroom's quite big. So I kept all the boxes in there at the end of my bed. So I'd wake up in this sort of room full of boxes. And yeah, I do all the packing myself, and then I pop down to the post office every morning and take them in. And yeah, it was very basic.
Oh, well, fantastic. I always remember reading Steve Jobs's memoirs, and then he started off in his garage, and he and Wozniak had boxes of bits everywhere, which they put together for their first computers and put them in the post.
I didn't even have a garage, so it just had to be my room.
Brilliant. So first lot's sold out. Something could actually work here, getting excited. So what happened next?
So I ordered another 50 because I thought they sold so well. And I also ordered a different colour, which was the burgundy, which to this day is our bestseller still, 3 years on, pretty much. And also at this point, my life personally changed a little bit. So I'd finished uni and I thought I'll do the business full time. And it was really silly. I think it was about 3 months old at this point. And you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't have enough to do at all because I was doing, a handful of orders a day, and I didn't know anything to do with business development, or I didn't have a huge budget to spend on marketing or influencers or anything like that. So I was really, really bored. And at this point, I thought, actually, I think because all my friends had finished uni, they were out there in London getting corporate jobs and their lives had totally changed. So I think I sort of thought, actually, that's what I want to do as well. And because the business really wasn't taking up much time because I didn't quite know what to do, I thought I'll get a job. So I started job interviewing and I actually ended up getting a job at a law firm in Cheltenham and in London. There are offices in both, as business development and marketing, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. And I could do Cotswold Fox alongside. So yeah, it was perfect. And it taught me a huge amount as well. And yeah, it turned out to be very, very, very valuable from both sides.
So you got a full-time job.
Yeah.
What happened next? And interesting how that business development role in marketing helped you then grow your business. So what
hugely helped. Yeah.
Okay.
Law is a very different sector to retail, but
very, very different.
and it was great because I worked with these partners every day, and it was a global top 35 law firm. So the whole atmosphere was super switched on, super businessy, super professional, which was brilliant for me because I was sort of in the right headspace for all of that. And it really taught me a huge amount. I would say not just about business, but also how to deal with people, and gave me a huge amount of confidence. And, I had to do pitches and do marketing meetings with all the partners and meet all these big London clients. So it was really, really good for me. Personally. And then I just did Cotswold Fox in my evenings, at the weekends, on my lunch breaks, occasionally during work, but we'll keep that one quiet. I've left now, it's okay. So yeah, and then this was sort of end of 2021. And I did a couple of events over the summer with Cotswold Fox. So I did a couple of little stands at my local polo club, which were really good fun. And carried on. And then I remember going into my first Christmas with the business, and I didn't know what to expect, because for me, I'm not a big shopper at all, and I didn't realize that Christmas was crazy. So I was absolutely run off my feet that first Christmas and sold out. And at this point, I'd actually moved to Cheltenham, and my mum, bless her, was doing all my packing at home at my parents' house, still in my room. And and she was just gobsmacked at how the orders were just flying out. And I wasn't spending anything on marketing. I was just doing it organically through social media and, sharing it to Facebook groups and stuff. And that was what we did. And then that first December, I think we did our first month of 10 grand, which was, I really wasn't expecting it. And, at that point, 10 grand was a huge amount of money for a startup. And I thought, oh, amazing, I've made it. I hadn't at all.
Just a small step.
It was a small step. It got tricky, but
a brilliant one. Well done.
It was really exciting. And I took time off work over Christmas to do Cotswold Fox a bit more. So it actually worked out really well. And then we went into the following spring, and it all slightly started to go wrong. So actually that autumn beforehand, I had a letter through the post, which was a very official letter from a group of solicitors. And they said, we're calling you up for trademark infringement for intellectual property, because I had registered Cotswold Fox as a trademark about September time, I think, September of our first year. So about 6 months after we started. And they said, basically, your trademark's too similar to ours, you're going to have to rebrand. So spoiler alert, their trademark was completely different. The only similarity was it had the word fox in it, and it had a fox graphic, but you could never ever get them mixed up. Theirs was black and white. It was very old fashioned looking. The fox was made out of sort of etchings, and it was sort of sitting up, and totally different name as well. And obviously my logo is sort of very colourful and clean and smooth lines and no graphics or anything like that. So I got that letter through the post in September, and I thought, God, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to rebrand, but I don't want to instruct solicitors because I have no money, because I've just started this business. And at this point, I knew nothing about law either. So I didn't even know if it was worth fighting for. Anyway, and luckily it had 3 months to respond. And then I got the job at this law firm. So I remember on my first week there, I asked my new boss, and I was like, oh, do we have a sort of IP team? And she was like, yeah, of course, why? And I thought, oh God, this doesn't sound great. I've just started this new job and I'm already asking for legal help. Anyway, so I sort of vaguely explained it. She seemed very nonplussed and sort of gave me a name of someone in London. Anyway, and we had an initial call, and he was absolutely lovely. I explained the whole situation, and he looked up this opposing client, well, not client, but the people who had started the trademark dispute. And he said, do you know who is the major shareholder of this business? And I said, no, I haven't looked it up. Anyway, I can't say who it was, but very well known. She's on TV a lot, and she's well known for supporting young entrepreneurs. And she's on a very well-known program, basically. Anyway, and she's terrifying. And I thought, oh God, that's that really. Like, if I could have picked anyone to not be against, it would have been her. Anyway, so that was sort of ongoing in the background. And luckily my law firm were amazing. They did the whole case for me pro bono. So it was for free. And they ended up winning. But this went on until the summer of 2022. So it was almost a year. And it was incredibly stressful. And although they were managing it for me, which was just the best thing ever, it was awful because I didn't know whether I'd have to stop trading at a moment's notice. So every stock order I did, I ordered very, very minimal quantities, which obviously makes the price go up. So business technically wasn't brilliant, although we were still carrying on and I hadn't said anything to anyone. We were sort of treading water at this point. And then it came through in June that we'd won. And I remember doing the final sign off of the legal documents, and my signature was next to her signature. And I just thought, God, how terrifying. Anyway, so from then on, summer 22, I thought, right, I'm going to really give this a really good go. So I booked the Game Fair, which is our first big event, which has a huge amount of visitors. It's a 3-day event in July. And I remember going, and it was so funny because we turned up, I went with my mum, I drove the horse box there with all the stock in the back, and I was going to sleep there for 3 days, and I didn't know anyone else going. And I thought, oh, great, the stand was pretty cheap considering all things. I think it was about £2,000, which isn't that cheap, but, better than I thought it was going to be. And we turned up next to this patch of grass, and we were directed down this road, absolutely huge size. And I thought, that's so weird. I've ordered shedding because I didn't have a marquee or anything. And shedding basically means a big white tent that all the exhibitors go in. And there wasn't one, it was just a patch of grass. And I got out and I thought, no, there must have been a mistake. And in this patch of grass was a stake with Cotswold Fox Clothing written on it. And in the shedding bit, it said 0. And I realised I completely forgot to order shedding. So I thought, oh God, what can I do? It's raining at this point. We've got 4 days of this. I don't have a gazebo. Anyway, so I called the show organiser because it was such a huge place. You couldn't find anyone. And luckily someone had dropped out the day before, and she said, this never happens. So you can have their space. So that was a huge relief, but it wasn't a good start at all. Anyway, and that was just the best show. We had a really, really good time. Revenue was amazing. Profits were great. And it was the first time I'd really sort of been out and seen customers face to face and actually seen that they liked the products and how excited they were. And yeah, that sort of gave me a real boost.
Really?
And yes, it went on from there. So that following December, we did 20 grand rather than 10 grand the following year, the previous year. And then that carried on, and I loved my job, so I wanted to stay there. And then the following year in the summer, so last summer, I decided to leave my job and run Cotswold Fox full time, which is what I'm doing now.
Wow, what a fantastic journey. So now I understand that there's some exciting news as well about where you are today and what you're about to do.
So we're actually about to open our first shop in Cheltenham, which is where I live. I moved here when I got the job at the law firm and absolutely love it. And I don't think I'll be leaving anytime soon. So yeah, we open actually in 6 days.
Wow. So this podcast will be gone out by the time you've opened, but wow, fantastic. So you've gone from stands to your first shop, and give us a quick understanding of where you are today. How many sort of different lines of clothing do you have? What's the plans for the shop?
So we have about 35 products now. We're stocked in about 10 to 15 country stores in England and Northern Ireland. We've got investors. We're about to open our first shop. And yeah, it's just me full time in the business, but I've got about 8 or 9 amazing people who help me either on a freelance or a contracted basis. And yeah, it's my full-time job and it's bloody busy, but I love it. This year, we've got 25 events booked. We've done 6 already. So we've got a super busy summer ahead. And of course, the shop opening, which happens on the 28th of May. And we're having our official opening event on the 1st of June, which is a Saturday, where we're going to invite lots of people down. We already have for drinks and shopping. And yeah, it's in Cavendish House in Cheltenham. So it's right in the middle on the promenade.
And what the exciting thing about is it's the sort of relaunch of Cavendish House downstairs, with the departing of the department store, but now being replaced by small businesses in the heart of Cheltenham, and you're going to be the first one, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. We're all hopefully set to go in 6 days. Fantastic. Well, that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, what an amazing story. I mean, I just love that from, well, I'll just give it a go, and how it's just grown and developed from there. Okay, you had the difficulty with the IP, but actually that got resolved because it wasn't the same. What have you learned? Key things about running a business so far, then, that you can share with our audience. Gosh, I mean, what haven't I learned? Every day I'm learning, which is great and also exhausting. I think one of the big things I've learned is definitely have the right people around you. For sure, I've been so lucky with people. So, for instance, advisors or
even just friends, if you can find a few friends who have their own businesses and have that mindset, that helps a huge amount, because it does get very all consuming, and actually having the right people around you to talk to makes the world of difference. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one, is find the right people, especially at advisory level, because they've done it all before, you haven't, you don't know what you don't know, and they can help guide you. And obviously you sort of have an idea of where you want to go, and no two businesses are the same, but you do need advice, whether it's just, on an accountancy side, or understanding your profit and loss, or even just putting it together in the first place. I had no idea about anything like that. So yeah, definitely having the right people around you makes a huge difference. I think for me, I can slightly be quite impatient, and I think it's good and it's not good, because it gets things done, but it also means I expect it to all work out instantly, and that's just not the case. So I definitely think managing expectations is really important. Yeah, I've made a few mistakes along the way where actually I think if I thought about it and maybe put a bit more time into it, they wouldn't have happened. So I've had to learn that the hard way, but hopefully the lesson's now learned. And I think as well, I think you've got to keep a very open mind, because to start with, I never wanted to go into wholesale. I didn't want, because the margins aren't the same as D2C. So on the website, the margins are where you want them to be, but on a wholesale basis, they're much less. So I actually thought I didn't want to go into wholesale, but actually once I looked into it, I thought it's great marketing for the brand to be seen in actual bricks and mortar shops all around the country. And it's great for cash flow, because you get a lump sort of sum up front, and then it's not your problem. So it definitely is a really good revenue stream that I was very reluctant to go into. And vice versa with the same thing with the shop. I didn't want a physical shop because I thought it's a massive tie. Rent is obviously through the roof at the moment, and high street shops aren't doing particularly well. But actually I got an email from the people who have just taken over Cavendish House and said, come down and see us. And again, with an open mind, I thought, fine, I'll just go and have a look. What do I have to lose? I was literally working almost next door. So I just popped down, and actually, touch wood, it all goes well. I would never have done that had it been a few months before. I would have just written it off as a straight no. But actually I got chatting to them and went through some terms and actually spoke about the whole thing and saw how it was going to work. And then I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. I think could be a really cool idea.
Brilliant. And you got to find staff now for the shop, and keep it running when you can't be there. Finding a shop manager, maybe, these sort of things. All new things you've got to do.
Another thing I've learned is definitely to keep costs as low as you can for a new business, because you need all the money you can get really in scaling it. So yeah, I didn't really think this one through massively, again, being a bit impatient here. So I just thought, oh, perfect. Well, I'll just use it sort of as my office, and I'll be in there 5 days a week. Well, it's open 7 days a week. I didn't think about the weekends. I didn't think that I'm away at events most weekends, if not every weekend, until October, I think. So then I thought, oh God, how's that going to work? And luckily, again, with some brilliant people sort of who I know and who are connected with me, I've found a couple of girls, 2 or 3 girls who I know already. I trust them. One's actually a placement student for me at the moment, where I went to university. So hopefully it'll all sort of fall into place, and I've put together a sort of a vague staff rota. But again, I think it's one of those things you're just going to have to try it out and see how it works out. And I think for the first 2-3 weeks, I won't really have a clue about how it's going to go, or how busy it's going to be, or who's needed. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of trial and error, but hopefully I've sort of got the backup resources to make it work.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, what an amazing conversation. So, let's meet in 5 years' time. I'll have a cup of coffee, maybe in your back office, with the leather sofa, and have a conversation about the next 5 years, So what's going to happen to make it both successfully for you, both personally and professionally?
I think now I feel like I'm in a very good place at the moment with my team and my mindset and everything that's sort of going on, both personally and with the business. And I think at this point, it's just a case of getting on with it, just cracking on. And hopefully in 5 years' time, it will be, 5 times bigger than it is now. And that's the plan, really. The plan is to just grow it as much as I can. But still, keeping true to, I want great quality products. I don't want products that are going to last for 2 months and then look rubbish. And I want timeless stuff that's going to be around for years, that you can wear all year round, and whether you're male or female. So sort of keeping true to that with the product line, but also just keeping growing it, and doing more events, and hopefully having more stockists, and hopefully the shop goes well, and that would be a great different revenue stream. And keep updating the website. So we do photo shoots about 4 times a year, 5 times a year for the websites. So, even silly things like I'd love to do a photo shoot abroad, and I'd love to be more involved with the creative side of things, because at the moment I'm sort of doing a little bit of everything, as you have to do, I think, to start and grow a business. And actually, I think in 5 years' time, I'd like to have a much more specific role, doing more things that I believe I'm good at, and sort of getting more staff in to do the bits and pieces that I'm probably terrible at. And hopefully in that way, it can also grow.
Wow, what a fantastic conversation we had. I mean, taking that idea in university, well, go and look at clothing and write a business plan for all that, with £300 in the bank, and just saying, well, okay, there's something I can do here, and actually turning that into a real business. I mean, what a fantastic start, and a really interesting way, the way that you then came through by finding your first samples and having a go and selling them, and the excitement of the ding, ding, ding on your Shopify as you start to sell things, and, having that issue with someone who said, oh, you're stealing our IP and our brand, and changing, but having that resolve to do that. And what the magical thing about you've just kept going through all those different elements. You've found a way through those solutions. And that's, you've said a few times you're impatient. I mean, I don't think that's just a bit of doggedness. You just keep on going and find a solution to those things, because that's what business owners do. We find solutions to those problems that are in front of us that get in the way. And you've got 35 products now. You're in 10 to 15 stores. You've got your own shop about to launch, which is really exciting. 25 events booked this year, and just growing through that. And what I love about your long-term plan is you also recognize you've got to find the right people to do the bits that, maybe you're not good enough or you don't like doing. I would say, no, you're really successful at them. You've got to find that bandwidth in lots of different people to allow the business to grow, because everything cannot revolve around you, or the business won't grow beyond where it is today for doing that. And you recognize that. And that's what I think is absolutely brilliant. So, well, what a fantastic conversation. And we always finish with a quick fire round, if I may. It's an interesting one, this one. If you go back to the younger self, what would you actually say? That's only a few years ago, most of us.
Yeah, I feel like I still am my younger self.
Yes, yeah, you're still living it. Brilliant.
I actually think I wouldn't change an awful lot. I think I'd just say, almost think about things sometimes a bit more, but equally just get on and do it, because actually so far, fingers crossed, it's all sort of working out. And actually every problem that I came across, there is a solution, and there are the people who can help you, and it's not the end of the world, hopefully. So yeah, I'd say just it will all be okay.
Brilliant. I mean, I often say to my clients, when they're thinking about issues and what they're going to do next, and they're thinking about risks, I always say, just write the risks all down on a piece of paper, write down what you'd do if it went wrong, fold up the piece of paper, put it on a shelf, and then get on with what you wanted to do in the first place, and you do that mentally, which I really like. You just say, okay, we'll find a solution, we'll get on with it. So brilliant. Books. Do you read any books? Do you have time to read any books? Any you recommend?
I love reading, but yeah, it's the time issue. I don't have a huge amount of time. Would I recommend any books? I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's a bit of a cliche. It's a very good book.
Yeah, good book.
Good book. I'm a big Stephen Bartlett fan. So he's written Happy Sexy Millionaire and Diary of a CEO. Both are great. I enjoy those. And then just books for light relief, just a good old Jilly Cooper or something.
Fabulous. Podcasts. Any podcasts you recommend?
Again, Diary of a CEO. I think it's a great business podcast. It's got so many different guests on there. I find it really interesting. This is a bit rogue, but Jamie Lang and Sophie Haboo's podcast of newlyweds, although I'm not even close to getting married, but it's great, and it's really funny, and it's sort of good to sort of have playing in your ears sometimes when you're doing a really, not a very exciting task, or if you're going for a run or in the gym, or that's quite good fun.
Brilliant. I'll seek that one out. It's very interesting. Apps on your mobile phone, any that make a difference for you?
Ooh, I've got all the classics on my phone. I've got Gmail, Shopify, all that, which I think is a slight curse rather than a blessing, because it means I actually never switch off. Other than that, I try not to go on my phone too much in the evenings because I'm on it so much for work. It's all very interlinked. So yeah, I'm not really a big app person, I have to say.
My favourite question of all, who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Oh, wow. Not so much as a business leader, but definitely my mum. She helps a huge amount, and we work very well together, and we have a very similar mindset. So that hugely helps. And she's always there for, support emotionally as well. If something's going on within the business that is worrying me, I can always pick up the phone and speak to her. And she owns 2 businesses herself, so she very much understands how it all works, which I think is one of the hardest things as a founder. Is most of my friends have normal jobs, and I had a normal job, and it was great, but it's a very different way of life.
Yes.
So definitely my mum. And also I actually had my first advisor was fantastic and really helped me get everything set up properly, and doing things properly, and really drilling it into me that yes, I need to fill out my P&L at least once a week, and getting all those ducks in a row, because I think without that I personally probably wouldn't have bothered, which is definitely the wrong thing.
Brilliant. Your most successful marketing tactic?
It's not very interesting, but meta ads, they work so well for us. Especially around Black Friday, Christmas, that time of year, they work really, really well. We've got a great agency actually who do that for us in Cheltenham. That's definitely a very successful marketing tactic for us.
Brilliant. And finally, how can people get hold of you?
So you can find us on Instagram at Cotswold Fox Clothing. I run all the social media pages, so if you want to ping a DM, do that, or you can email me at jemima@cotswoldfox.com.
Well, Jemima, what a fantastic story you've had today about your business growth and where you're going. I'm really excited for your future.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.